Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you want to see what my top 5 and bottom 5 eyeshadow palettes are, then just keep on watching. Again, please don't forget to subscribe if you have not yet already. So let's just jump right in. I do want to do a small disclaimer as well. Just because some of these eyeshadow palettes didn't work for me does not mean it will not work for you. And also, if some of these palettes work for me, doesn't mean they will work for you also. You know, we all have different skin types, different ways to apply eyeshadow, different, some formulas work for some people and some don't. So I just want to do that small disclaimer. These are just my top and bottom picks, but also do not get mad at me because maybe your favorite was in my bottom or your not so favorite was on my top. You know, we all are different people and we all like different things. So I just wanted to mention that real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and do like one bottom and one top, like kind of go bottom top until I'm done with my number one bottom and my number one top. So that way we kind of have variety. We don't just do like all negatives and all positives. We kind of want to mix it up here. So should I start with top or bottom? Let's start with the bottom. My bottom palettes are actually going to be palettes that I don't really use, that they're alright. Like, if you ask me if I would recommend one of these, maybe I would, but a lot of them I kind of wouldn't. I don't know, like, I like to use them, but I really don't. Like, they're not my favorite. Oh my gosh. But my first bottom palette that I do not really use and that I probably should have just passed on it is by Urban Decay. This is the Naked Urban Decay Smoky Palette. Just comes in like this plastic packaging, pretty standard to all the other packagings that they have. It's like this rectangular packaging. This was just the plastic one. I love the packaging. I think it's really pretty, like all the smokiness that's on here. But this is what these shades in here look like. Again, really smoky eyes is really what you'll get with this palette. You can't really do, you can, but you can't really do like an everyday eye look with this. You do have your light shades and then kind of some transitions, and these are all shimmers, but these like are all pretty much dark shades. Again, I don't really use this palette. It is very pigmented also, but I don't use it every day, so if I could have skipped on this, I think I would have. So my number 5 for my top eyeshadow palettes is gonna be this one from Too Faced, and this is the Natural Mattes palette. It's an all matte neutral eye palette, and it does come with like this plastic tin case here, and this is what the inside of the palette looks like right here. So you get some highlighting shades, and this is kind of more like a transition shade. And then you get all these pretty matte, warm, and some cool tones shades in here. This is like the palettes that I use when I am using like an all shimmer eyeshadow palette and I don't have any matte shades, or like if a palette doesn't have a matte white shade for your brow bone or inner corners. Like, this is the one that I always go to. This is the one I reach for. This is like just my go-to palette that I use. With those palettes that don't have like a dark shade or like this really light shade right here, I have used up, like, there's a really big dent on this white one. Again, like, I just go for this palette for this shade particularly. But I like how matte they are. I always do looks using these two shades and then these warm tones, and then you have some cool tone shades. I think this is just like the perfect little palette on the go to have. And again, this is just the one I reach for the most. So the next bottom palette is, a lot of people like this palette. It's alright. I like the pigment of it. I like the brand also because it's very, very pigmented, but I just don't have any. I just feel like it's an everyday palette. I don't know. Let me show you what it is. So it's the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette. Everybody and their mama raves about this palette. They love it so much. People freaking have hit pan on a lot of the shades, and mine are pretty much new still. Just drop the brush. I don't know, like, I picked this up for the hype, to be honest. Everybody raved about it. Everybody had it. I needed to buy it and have it also. It's just not my go-to palette. Like, it isn't. I feel bad. The shades are actually really, really pigmented, and I have used this palette. I don't think I think I have like one tutorial up using this palette, but it's just not my like go-to palette. Like if you ask me, is the Modern Renaissance palette your go-to? And I would be like, no, it's not. I don't know what to say about it. Like I feel bad for mentioning it in my bottom palettes because I just don't reach for it. Like I really don't. So my number 4 top palette is actually from BH Cosmetics, and they are very affordable. I do have the Warm Stone and the Cool Stone palette here. Pretty much the same thing, just one's cool tone and one's warm tone. So this one is the Cool Stone palette. So you get some beautiful blue and purple shades. It is like plastic. It does look like the Tartelette palettes. I just like it. It's like really pigmented. Also, BH Cosmetics has really been stepping up their game, and it's just pigmented and very affordable. And again, this is the Warm Stone palette. You do get a mirror also, and this is what those shades look like. I feel like, again, BH Cosmetics, super buttery, pigmented. Maybe I should be doing swatches, but like, this is really pretty. It really lasts on my eyelids. Like, this is one of the palettes from BH Cosmetics that does stay on my eyelids, and the pigmentation looks the same when I apply it, and then by the end of the day, it still looks the same. I just really like this palette. My number 3 bottom palette is actually from Tarte, and it's the Tartelette palette. So again, it's kind of funny because it's like the BH Cosmetic one, and you'll see right here, this one does feel a little like more high end, of course, and it is kind of like triple the price. But this is the first Tarte palette, because there's 2 Tartelette palettes, and this is the regular, the number 1 Tartelette palette, and then there's the Tartelette in Bloom where it has more like neutral shades. This is more of a cool tone palette. I actually really like cool tone eyeshadows. So, I don't know, I just don't really reach for this palette either. It's pretty much new. I would definitely say this was another palette that I bought because a lot of people were hyping it up. If I could skip on it, I would. I just don't feel any inspiration. Like, I don't feel like, oh, let me use this to create, I don't know, like I don't have very much inspiration with this palette. This is actually a nice like everyday palette actually, because you do get your nice light shades and then some transitions and then to smoke out the outer corners and stuff like that. So this is nice for like everyday eye looks, but to really be like inspired to create something different, not really for me anyways. So my number 3 top palette is actually by Natasha Epazote. So this is the blue purple palette, but this is what the palette looks like. This is very pricey. I like the shadows in here. I do get inspired when I see this palette, and the eyeshadows are very pigmented. I do feel like it's worth the purchase. Like, it is pricey, but I feel like it's worth it. I don't have any problems with it. Again, it looks the same when I first apply it as at the end of the day when I'm removing my makeup. Very pigmented, like very buttery, smooth. I kind of just barely swatched that. Dude, this is pricey. Just save up for this. I feel like it's really worth it. And pick up the one that you think you would use like on a daily basis, because again, these palettes are not cheap. But I feel like these palettes are worth it. And yeah, I like this palette. My number 2 bottom eyeshadow palette is actually by Maybelline, and it's the Nudes. Maybelline the Nude, so it's just like neutral shades. This kind of has like a naked, the Naked One kind of scheme. I picked this palette because some of the shades in here are hit and miss. Some of them are really pigmented and some of them aren't. And I don't really play with this palette either. I've only used 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like 4 shades out of what, 2, 4, 6, 12 shades. Like, that's not good. But when I swatch some of these, like, it felt like they don't really like build up very well. They're kind of like bland to me. Like, I'm not like, lately I've used like neutral palettes, like neutral eye looks, just because for work I can't really wear like a freaking like bright green eye look to work, you know what I mean? Like, I do work in kind of front office girl, like you can't really be like bright green eye looks. I don't like talking bad about palettes, but like, you know, there's some stuff that works for us and some stuff that doesn't. I don't know, I just don't, again, this is not a palette that I feel inspired with, just like an everyday neutral palette. Some shades are hit and miss, like some of them you could see, like this gold one's actually really nice, and you can see this. I've used this shade before. Shade right here, it looks really pretty, but again, it's just not a palette I really reach for, and it's just chilling in my collection, so maybe for a declutter, this will be one of the ones to go. Top 2 palette is this one from Judea Space, and this is the Masquerade palette by Juvia's, and I freaking like this palette compared to the one I just mentioned. But I like this palette because you get color and then you get neutral shades. Like, it's just pretty, very affordable. I think this palette's like $30, and then there's discount codes out there that you can get 10% off. And then sometimes she does offer like free shipping. I just feel like these shades are really pigmented, and you don't need like to really pack on anything. As you can see here, these are like very pigmented and really affordable, and the pants are, these are huge. I think these are the same size as like the Makeup Forever eyeshadows, the individual ones, and those are like freaking huge. I think these are the same size. Again, very pigmented, super affordable. If you are able, I do have pretty much all of them except the neutral palettes by Judea Space, and this one's like my favorite from all of the ones I have. If you're looking for a Judea Space to try, this one's a good one to pick up because again, you get the color, you get pops of color shades, and then you get the neutral shades as well. And I also was going to mention, this is a palette that I use a lot actually, but I do use this palette with this. They do have like a light shade, but it has like shimmer in it, and I don't really want shimmer all the time in my brow bone. So this is the palette that I use with in conjunction with this one. So again, and they also, a con actually about this is that it doesn't have like a really dark brown or black in here, but this is pretty dark. See, there's some cons about the palettes that I do like also. It's not just flowers and roses, you know, there's cons about these palettes, but still, even though it doesn't have a matte shade or like a dark brown shade, this is still one of my go-to palettes. So we made it to the top 1 bottom and top 1 top. Now it's my bottom. So my bottom, a lot of people love also. It's this BH Cosmetics Carli Bybel palette, and this is actually her first palette. This palette is cute. When I first apply it to the lids, I feel like I'm applying a lot of eyeshadow to really make sure that you could see it on my lids. It's not very, I don't know, like when you swatch it, it's pretty pigmented, but like when I apply it to my, it's these 2 shades right here. When I apply it to my eyelids, it just doesn't transfer. Like the color just doesn't transfer. It doesn't really look like I have eyeshadow on when I really am packing the shades onto my eyelids. I just don't get it. Like, I've heard the highlighters are amazing. I don't know, like the eyeshadows don't really stay on me, so I don't really reach for the highlighters either. If I did a declutter this palette, probably I would consider putting it, like giving it away or something, because it just doesn't work for me. Like, you can't see the colors on my lids, like, or I'll really pack it on, and then by the end of the day it doesn't even look like I have any eyeshadow on. Yeah, it just doesn't work for me. She did come out with a deluxe version of this, and I didn't pick it up because I did not want to spend my money on a palette that I wasn't gonna be able to really see on my eyelids. I did see that they reformulated, and like the formula is supposed to be way better than the first one, but I'm not super convinced to pick it up. I do like Carli, but I don't want to get another palette that's not gonna work for me, so I have skipped on it. But you never know, like I like to jump on bandwagons, and maybe I'll pick that palette up, but for right now I don't think I'll be picking it up either. And this one is my #1 bottom palette that's in my collection. And finally, my top 1 eyeshadow palette is actually from Voss, and it's in collaboration with Laura Lee. I really like this palette. It's funny how I went like from being negative to like being happy because this is my #1 top pick. So this is my #1 top pick. This is like my everyday go-to. If something simple, this is it. Something dramatic, if I need a dark shade, a like brow bone highlight color, a dark shade of black, a brown, some transition shades, this is just it. This is what it looks like. Again, transition shades, highlighting shades, dark shades. I pretty much use like these shades for my crease, and then this Bubs and Lou, perfect like smoking out your outer corners. It's just perfect. You get pops of gold, then you get a pink, and you get a pop of green, and then you get these like copper shades. I just feel like I have it all with this palette. I don't know if you guys can tell how like dirty this palette is, but this palette is my favorite. I use this palette at least like 3 or 4 times a week. Like, honestly, this is really good. This is a limited edition palette. I'm not sure if they still carry this. Again, I just like this palette. It's really nice, and it's my #1, and I like Laura too. So those were all my top and bottom eyeshadow palette picks. Let me know down in the comment section below if any of these palettes were also your top or bottom, or if they were the opposite of what I thought of them. Again, everything works differently on everybody. We all have different skin types. We all have different likes. So this is my bottom and top eyeshadow palette picks. So if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and please also don't forget to subscribe. And I will see you all in my next video. Oh, I do want to mention that I do have a tutorial on the look I am wearing. So go ahead and check it out. I'll leave a link to it down below. And I will see you all in my next video. Bye!